Welcome to Equity in Focus. I am your host, Kevin Hooks. Today, we're diving into the world of strategic brilliance and operational excellence with none other than Dino Browne. He's a titan of business strategy and a beacon for entrepreneurs across industries. Dino, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So before we get started, tell the audience a little bit about who Dino Browne is.
Dino Browne is a kid from the streets of the Bronx, New York. Went to the Bronx High School of Science, then went to MIT for undergrad and my graduate work. Left B school and went straight into strategy consulting, working with companies like Mars and Company, Bain and Company, and Accenture. I've been doing that for most of my career. Over the last 7-8 years, I've been working with Las Vegas Urban League and their entrepreneurship center, basically heading that up, helping new entrepreneurs looking to start new business actually get started, and helping existing small business owners grow and scale their businesses for profitability. So we've come across a lot of great people along the way. We've helped to develop a lot of new businesses and develop a lot of new strategic business minds in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and space out here in Las Vegas.
No, I love it. And, I've had, for the audience's edification, I've had the pleasure of knowing Mr. Browne for a long time. We worked together, we played together, we had a great time watching each other grow up in business. That being said, it's super impressive, especially from people who came from kind of backgrounds we came from, to end up at a place like MIT, but then focusing on electrical engineering and management science. How did you do that and then pivot that into this renowned strategic consultancy work that
It's a great question. So, I went to MIT. I got into a bunch of good schools I really was interested to go to: MIT, UPenn, Yale, Princeton, etc. I went to MIT because I really did want to be an engineer. During the course of that first 4 to 5 years I was there, I interned with a strategic planning company called Gemini. Back then it was called Management Analysis Center, or Gemini Consulting. And that was one of the original big 6 strategy companies. And so once I interned there for summer of my junior year, I said, this engineering is great, but I really want to learn how to make money. And the consulting / business route was a much better way to do that. So since I already done 3-4 years in the engineering, I said, let me go ahead and just finish off the requirements for that degree, and at the same time start picking up all the finance classes and management classes that I needed from the Sloan School of Management to get that management degree as well. So that's kind of how I made that turn between my junior and senior year at MIT and moving from engineering to more of a business focus and a problem-solving type of platform.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And talk about the importance of doing things that are a little bit out of the ordinary, like making sure you're working while you're in college by doing internships and maybe going the extra mile.
That's critical because again, I don't know about you in school, but I was broke, so I had jobs from working in the printing department, making copies during my freshman and sophomore years, to doing research projects. During January, we had something called UROP, Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program. So I got to do engineering-based research projects during our January period in which we were off. So those things kept my skills sharp, number one, when you're not in school. But number two, really keeps the mind always working, always thinking ahead to what the next thing is. Not only for me as a college student, that would be preparation for me as an adult as I'm going through life and going from job to job, thinking about what's next. I've kind of got this mastered. What do I need next for my own, intellectual portfolio, if you will? So I think working while you're in school I'm so happy that I had to do it. I'm so happy that I got to do it because it really taught me a lot about what the world was going to be like. So working was nothing new to me once I came out of school.
Yeah, so once you got out of school and started the working, can you talk about a time or an experience where you knew, oh, I nailed it, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
Great question. So I'm going to go back to my first firm, Mars and Company. It's located in Greenwich, Connecticut. There are 3 offices: London, Paris, and New York. And the New York office is in Greenwich. I was there for maybe about 2.5 years. At that point, they promoted me to MBA level, consultant level. So I had to do some work in Mexico City. I was working for Pepsi in Mexico. They were a huge client of ours. Pepsi was a big client of Mars and Company, not only in Mexico but all over the world, basically for the most part, as well as North America. And so I had this beverage project that I was doing where Pepsi globally was looking at getting away from CSD, which stands for carbonated soft drinks, and into what they referred to then as new beverages. So, for example, waters, isotonics, right? Aquafina is Pepsi's water brand. Gatorade is their isotonic brand. Sparkling waters as well. So they're looking to quantify the market in Mexico and looking to come up with a strategy as to really penetrate into, basically cannibalize themselves, because Mexico, like many Latin American companies, drink a lot of carbonated soft drink. They drink more soda than they do milk and water. So we had to really think about how we're going to change the mindset of the average, Mexican consumer to start looking at drinking these different types of things now. And so I made a presentation to the president of Pepsi Mexico. And again, this is only my third year in consulting, and basically I got a standing round of applause from all the directors and the senior VPs. And to answer your question, that's when I knew, I had them by the what. I had done my thing, and there was never any question about not just my skill set, but the entire firm. So basically the firm was solidified at that point to do more and more work in Pepsi-Cola Mexico. So that's one of many examples.
No, I love it. That's interesting. Most people, the last standing ovation they get is when they graduate from high school or college, depending
right.
on who it is. And so being in an environment where you do that, I know how that must make you feel. But that being said, you talked about the beverage industry. I know that you've crossed industries. Is it a different approach, different mindset, differing industries across industries when you're bringing this consulting viewpoint to them? Do you take a different approach?
The approach stays the same, right? So basically, Adam Smith and microeconomic theories has worked since the 1600s. So if you can basically find out what drives costs within an organization and understand how they generate revenue, basically you want to run down costs and come up with strategies to improve and increase revenue, and ways in which you interact with the consumer or your client. So the approach is no different. The terminology is always very different, and the way in which you approach the individuals in the organization that you're trying to fix is very different as well, because there's a lot of massaging that you have to do with this. When you're helping a small business, it's a lot of hand-holding, because many small business owners really don't know any better because they've never been trained on owning or managing a business. But when I walk into a Pepsi, for example, all the people on the team that's been assigned to work with consultants, well, they're all MBAs, and they're all guys that think they're as smart, if not smarter, than the consultants walking in. So there's a little bit of massaging the situation, let's say, that has to take place. You don't want to walk in like you're the big swinging brain that knows everything. At the same time, you don't want to come in and let them try to overwhelm you with how much they know. You have to make sure that they understand, I'm there for a reason. Yes, you have a great background, you have your degrees, but I'm here because there's a problem. So let's put our heads together and try to fix it. So I would say that across industries, there's really no difference in the approach to solving the problems, but the way in which you get the work done in terms of interpersonal dynamics with the clients that you're interacting with, that is very different.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dr. Cornel West talks about the decreification of education that's prevalent, particularly in our communities. How do you stay up on the latest, learnings, the latest, tools of your craft, so that you can walk in the room where you're ahead of the game and you can provide insight that maybe, they will buy into because it's different than something they know? That's
one of the biggest challenges that I think that many of us have, because we're so busy with what we're doing right now. So my approach is, I have so when I left MIT, the Sloan Management School, they have something called Sloan Management Review, which is very similar to the Harvard Business Review. So I pretty much read those on a weekly basis. Harvard Business Review I get once a month, but the Sloan Management Review, those articles come to my email virtually 2-3 times a week. Articles about the newness of work, right? The way work is changing in the new technological landscape. How do you generate value in this technical society as opposed to how you did it back in the 90s and the 2000s? So keeping up and reading on those new things that are coming out by new authors, new dynamics, new trends. That kind of keeps me on the top of my game, and keeps the client on the edge of their seat with regard to what types of knowledge I'm dispelling.
Yeah, no, it makes all the sense in the world. And I know that you are working with a lot of small businesses, trying to help them become more successful and grow and achieve their goals. How do you impart that wisdom and knowledge on them and convince them that it is more than just about doing their job every day? They've got to continue to innovate and do things like that. How do you provide that messaging to them where it sticks?
That's another big challenge, Kevin, because the plight of the small business owner, not just in any particular geography, but the plight of small business owners, that once they get up and started, they spend a lot of their time working in the business as opposed to working on the business, right? So they become an employee of the business as opposed to a real owner or real CEO whose job is to be the visionary and the architect as to where the company's moving to. They have to be the goal setters. They have to establish where they want to be in 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, right? So a lot of the training, once I help the small business get up and running, the training then focuses not on the operations, but on the owner, to make sure that I provide the right CEO training for them to understand how to take that business into the future. And that's critical, because if I don't do that, then that same client's gonna be coming back to me 6 months to a year later saying, I'm having trouble, what do I do? So that means if that happens, that means I haven't done my job well enough. So I try to make sure that that doesn't happen by focusing on the things that they really don't want to hear about, right? Because these small business owners are best-in-class practitioner, they're the best-in-class chef, who goes on and ultimately becomes a restaurant owner. They're the best-in-class handyman who opens up his own construction company, right? So where does the chef want to be? The chef wants to be in the kitchen cooking. The chef doesn't want to be managing wait staff. The chef doesn't want to be counting waste. Yep. The chef doesn't want to be even greeting customers half the time. They want to be in the kitchen, but being an owner of a restaurant is so much more than the cooking. It's way more than the cooking. So these are things that are again not the owner's fault, because they were just never classically trained in business, and that's what we try to do at our entrepreneurship center, is provide the essentials of business to make sure that they have longevity and sustainability in the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. As executive director of the Entrepreneurship Center at the Las Vegas Urban League, what initiatives are you currently focused on? And talk about things that you're doing day to day to help small business owners stop being employees of their own business and move into employers where they can actually have an impact on our community by giving people jobs.
Yep. So day to day, it's basically one-on-one training. Hold on. I don't know if you can see me. I lost you for a second. Okay, big. I'm back. Day-to-day training really focuses on one-on-one counseling and consulting. We have a great curriculum that we've been putting together over the last 8 years since I started working with you. And so there are a host of different training workshops in the areas of operations, management, finance and financial literacy, industry-related training. So we do specific trainings for restaurants, for construction, for contracting, etc. So based on a day-to-day basis, just continuous training and learning for these business owners to get up to speed. But in addition, it's really sitting down and in our business workshops. We do about 5-6 business workshops a month. These are both either via Zoom virtually or in person. We're back to a hybrid session now, and what we try to do in those is do as much role playing as possible. So for example, if there's somebody looking to get a loan from a bank for their small business, we'll do mock bank interviews, right? We'll do mock interviews with potential other organizations that they're looking to acquire. We'll basically set up a lab to help these business owners perform in situations where they're not used to performing, and that's how you really get their skill set and their game up to be able to compete going forward. Goal setting, budgeting and goal setting is a big one that we have. I'm doing that one next week. So not only understanding your budgeting, but what are the goals that you have for your business? And some will say, well, I want to make more money. Okay, fine. Now let's put some meat around that. How much money? In what time frame? How do you want to do it? With what revenue streams, right? What costs are you going to incur going after these goals? You really have to saying that I want more money is not a goal. That's an idea. It's a dream, right?
Right.
You have to put some meat and some brick and mortar around it, so that it ultimately becomes a goal that you can strive for and attain through steps, and have an action plan to achieve that goal, but in a certain time frame.
No, I love the granularity of your approach, just making sure that we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about like a success story? You don't have to give names, but like an entrepreneur, a young person came into your business and came to get your support. They went from here to here.
So I have this will go back to a little bit of your question, your last question, which I was going to expound on. So back in 2016, a young lady came to me, and she was a hair designer, and she'd been doing hair for about 20 years, and she was doing, like many small business owners in that space of beauty, so hair, nails, etc. Many individuals operate illegally. Right. So in other words, she does hair and she's been doing hair for 20 years, but she doesn't have a business license. She didn't have a business license. She didn't have a business name. She had a website, interestingly enough, but if the IRS ever went digging, that could be a big problem. So that's one of the first things I trained her on. Her real passion, though, was making baked potatoes, and so she came up with a business plan. I helped her write a business plan for a business called Twice Baked. And so they do gourmet baked potatoes. They also do tacos. They do like soul rolls, things of that nature. They do kind of high level gourmet finger food. She's become very successful, and most recently, I was able to get her a $10,000 grant by way of one of our strategic partners in Pepsi Cola. So I got her a grant for her business, and as recently as the day before the Super Bowl, which was out here in Las Vegas, the NFL had something called the Taste of the NFL, where they had 22 gourmet chefs assemble at the Lou Ruvo Center in downtown Las Vegas and display their food. So they got to wear their own new chef jackets. They had boots, and they got exposure to all these different individuals. Wow. About 1,500 people there. And she called me a couple of days ago to tell me that she literally has increased her revenue since that, over the last month, by about 35 to 40% just because of that event. So that's one of many great success stories. I'm very happy that she's doing well. The thing, though, that makes her a success story is that, again, I met her back in 2016. She's been coming to training workshops and getting training, one-on-one counseling from me over the last 7 years. Right? It's the individuals that come back for the continuous training, that those are the ones that become successful in the long term. Unfortunately, many people come, they learn what they think they need to learn, they go off and start their business, and next thing you know, 6 months later they're back saying, I'm failing. What's going wrong? Well, it's because you didn't get all the training that you needed. You got a piece of it, but when you have a headache, do you take half an aspirin? No, you take full aspirin. So you can't expect to get full results with only getting a portion of the required meal, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. And learning is a lifelong journey. And
absolutely,
so you're right. It goes back to the degreeification of education that Dr. West talks about, but also, African proverb, you can't build a house off last year's summer. It just means you gotta keep growing and learning. So really appreciate the work that you're doing. And you mentioned the Lou Ruvo Center. For those listening, that is one of the most beautiful establishments you ever go. It's a part of the Cleveland Clinic. And most of the events that are there hosted for nonprofit fundraising, it's $25,000 a plate minimum. So to be able to have her, give her the access to that, you to get an applause, big ups to you and her tenacity and willingness to step off the ledge and take
absolutely
get there. So I appreciate that. So what advice would you give other aspiring for young professionals that want to, to do something, create their own business? They have all these ideas, and people keep telling them, keep the main thing, or, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times our own friends and families prevent us from stepping off that ledge. What advice would you give someone aspiring to be an entrepreneur?
On the same note, Kev, sometimes the friends and family push them off the ledge too soon. It can be a problem as well. The advice I continue to give small business owners is get help. Don't do it by yourself. No one is equipped to be good at operations, finances, organization structure, and management. Maybe you're good at 3 of them. Maybe you're really good at 2 of them. Well, get help. And when I say to get help, I mean get help in organizing and managing your business. But also, there are people like myself out there, right? The Urban League Entrepreneurship Center, the Nevada Women's Business Center provides entrepreneurial services. There are so many different free resources in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that are out there. The Small Business Development Center, the SBA, SCORE, Seasoned Core, Retired Executives, all these guys provide services to new entrepreneurs and small business owners, and these services are free. Yeah. So get help. Don't think you have to do it all by yourself. Get help and use as many of these different resources as possible. There are lots of resources out there. But at the same time, you have to do the work. Okay, it's not going to fall into your lap. You have to do the work. You have to do your market research to understand who your customers are going to be, who you're going to sell to, where you're going to find them, right? What location are you going to have for your operation? You have to do a lot of research on what your geography looks like and how you can maximize your opportunity within said geography. So I'd say the 2 words are just get help.
Yeah, I love it.
There are resources out there.
You mentioned all the resources, and they all felt very unique and diverse in their offering, representing women, retirees, African Americans. So that brings me to the next question. This podcast really likes to dive into the importance of equity and inclusion. How important is equity and inclusion in the work that you do, and what kinds of things do you do to remind people that there's talent in all walks of life?
Great question. So the way in which I kind of contribute to the DEI conversation is really through making sure that small businesses of color get opportunities that they probably might not have before. So when COVID took place and the government decided to step in and do something by providing loans / grants to small businesses through the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, and EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Unfortunately, what ended up happening in the first round of that PPP giving is that small businesses of color and minority small businesses lost out. Because they don't keep good books. They're not what I call bankable. They don't have their books in order. They're not able to speak intelligently about the finance landscape of their business. So the first thing that we did is we sprung into action to help those minority small businesses and Black-owned small businesses get their books in order, right? Because unfortunately, the guys who made out like bandits in that first round were the accountants, and the accountants are these are all tax accountants. What we do here at the Entrepreneurship Center and many of the aforementioned resources that I mentioned, we're management accountants, right? We don't care about one line on your profit and loss statement. We care about the entire profit and loss statement, from revenue all the way down to net profit, not just the tax liability, right? We want to manage everything, your cost of goods, your marketing, your advertising, etc. So we engaged on a trek to basically educate as many small businesses as possible on getting their books in order. So that by the time the next round of PPP came around, we got access. Black business owners got access to these loans and these funds. And so we feel that our contribution to the whole equity part of the DEI discussion is that, more and more businesses of color were able to partake in the givings from the government, but also more importantly, get education as to how to not be stuck in the headlights, right? So things like succession planning, how to repivot your business, right? How to be innovative around your business model, how to rethink and re-engineer what it is that you fundamentally do, based on the fact that people weren't going outside and that people, were not interacting in the ways that they normally would. So it really became a whole series of COVID-related types business workshop trainings to teach them, look, here's how you operate in this type of environment, because no one knew how to do that, but everyone does know that revenues minus expenses equals profit. And you need to continue to do that to stay in business.
Really interesting. Yeah, it does. You mentioned something really interesting. You said repivot your business. I'm big on emerging technologies and its impact on business, especially AI in particular. And there's a lack of equity that is at the ground level of all emerging technologies. That's just a part of the community or culture of the United States, or the worldwide culture, if I guess, to be honest. So Have you seen any trends or anything that's looming around the corner that you're advising your clients to make sure that they're taking advantage of that will allow them to properly pivot, but more importantly, to scale or expand if necessary?
I think that AI is on the cusp of being able to do some really, really great things for. I mean, it's already doing great things for large organizations, but I think the small business is going to be able to take advantage of some of the AI tools that are out there now, and especially specifically in terms of how small businesses interact with their clients virtually, through the internet or through PDAs or handhelds or phones or what have you. So there's some opportunities there. It's gonna be it's gonna be kind of like one-offs though, depending on how technologically savvy the client is, right? So for a small business, it might not be paramount for them to start thinking about these types of things, but I do try to keep them, at the right on the edge of understanding, hey, this is what could be coming in your industry. So you need to be prepared to think about, what kind of investment you want to make in this type of technology, and how it might better your overall operation.
No, I love it. So we're gonna pivot. Speaking of pivot,
okay,
a little bit more personal. So outside of helping entrepreneurs, not only survive but to thrive, what do you do for fun? What tell us a little about what Dino does when he's not helping the world save the world?
Man, so many ways in which you can save the world too. But what Dino does a lot of exercising, do a lot of walking, jogging. I don't do as much weightlifting as I used to because I run high blood pressure, and I spend a lot of time with my son. I have a 21-year-old who's highly functioning autistic, so I spend a lot of time with him. We're still trying to get him he's working a couple of internships. We're looking to get him a full-time job. So I've been able to spend a lot of time with him, which has been a lot of fun as well. So yeah, Dino the normal person, is just a huge sports fan. Love basketball, love baseball, love football. Used to play a lot of all three of them. Played baseball in high school and in college, although you might say that playing baseball at MIT is kind of like playing for a high school team anyway. So I'll leave that. I've been told that anyway. So, but yeah, I just like to just enjoy life, man. Just enjoy the fact that God is great. I'm alive and well, and I'm able to do this type of work, which has been the most fun of my career. I thought for years that doing work with Fortune 100 companies like Pepsi and Coke and Bausch and Lomb and Corning was like it could be the pinnacle, but working with small businesses and just the gratitude and the great feeling that you get from doing this type of work, it's amazing. I get Christmas cards from people that I helped 10 years ago saying thank you for helping my business, and that there's no better feeling in the world than that.
And for the audience's edification, he is a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Yes, sir. yo, absolutely. And
we can't get out of here without that. But before we get
not that, and betting it.
Let's go in a couple quick hitters, real quick.
Yes, KSI to the day I die.
If you I knew I shouldn't have got him started.
No, I'll stop there.
If you could give a TED Talk on any topic unrelated to your professional work, what would it be?
The continuous need for African Americans to truly understand their history. And I'm not talking about the history that is taught in high school, even college level curriculums. I'm talking about going back and doing research, not only using technology, but research by talking. One of the best things I could ever do was when I started, my father was in his teens in the 60s, so he really knew what the 60s was like. He knew, what was happening when Dr. King did the March on Washington. He knew about the riots, in LA and things of that nature. So one day I spent about 6 hours just asking him, kind of like what his take on all that was. How do you feel? How did it feel to go into places where you had to use a colored bathroom versus a standard bath? I mean, I think that's lost today, and unfortunately, without a knowledge of the history, doesn't give you lose the appreciation for what our ancestors have come through, and I think that's lacking in Black society today. So that's just one thing off the top of my head that I think I would.
Oh, I love that.
I'd love to give a TED talk about.
And who would you want in the audience? Give me 2 or 3 people that would have to be there, dead or alive.
Good question. Oprah Winfrey, Cornell West, just to rip one off of you, and
Absolutely.
and Denzel Washington.
Love it. I love it. So Dino, it's been great having you on the show. Tell the people where they can find you if they want to access your services or just find out more about what you're doing.
Sure. So you can find about the Urban League at www.lv.org. That's our website. You can reach me at Dino, Dino, Browne, Browne, at lvul.org. You can reach me there at any time. I'd be more than happy to lend my services. I do work for clients not only in Las Vegas. I have clients all over the country. In fact, I have a couple of global clients as well. So more than happy to help anyone who's looking for help with managing and operating their small business.
We appreciate your wonderful insights and the work that you're doing to empower communities and to save lives. So thank you for joining us on Equity in Focus. Everyone,
it's my pleasure, Kevin.
Thank you, and we'll see you guys next time on the next edition of Equity in Focus.